Walk into the gym.
And it's like, bam, this wall of...
Let's just say interesting smells. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
You've got your pre-workout down playlist ready to go.
But then you realize, wait a minute, I forgot the creatine.
The classic gym goer's dilemma.
Right, like it's practically a staple at this point.
At least if you listen to those muscle-bound regulars over by the weights.
Right, always with the tubs of protein and creatine.
But what if, and stay with me here,
What if this whole creatine thing is more than just, like, gym bro gospel?
okay, now you've got my attention.
What if there's real science behind it? And what if that science applies to, well, everyone?
It's true. Creatine has definitely been stepping out of the weight room and into the spotlight of serious research lately.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
We're talking all things creatine, what it is, what it does.
And whether you should even think about adding it to your routine.
We're looking at some articles from Strength by Fitness today.
And trust me, some of these findings might surprise you. Ready a deep dive?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. So creatine, at its core, it's all about energy, right?
Exactly. It helps your body produce ATP.
Which is basically like the fuel that powers every single one of your cells.
Okay, so like my phone needs a battery charge to work.
ATP is like that charge for my cells.
That's a great way to put it. And creatine helps keep those batteries juiced up.
And here I was thinking it was just about packing on muscle.
But if we're talking about cellular energy, that means it's not just about building muscles, right?
Precisely. While you do get a small amount of creatine from eating meat,
It's often not enough to really tap into its full potential. And trust me, the benefits go way beyond just how much you can bench press.
speaking of benefits, the article mentioned some pretty wild ones.
Things that even caught my eye, and I'm not exactly a gym rat, you know?
Oh, like what?
We're talking about boosting brain power, memory, focus.
Even a better mood? I mean, who wouldn't want a piece of that?
It is pretty incredible. And it all comes back to that energy component we talked about.
Your brain, just like any other organ, it thrives on ATP.
And creatine seems to improve the function of mitochondria in the brain. Those are like tiny energy factories inside your cells.
And when they're humming, your brain cells can really function at their best. And that translates to improvements in all those cognitive areas you mentioned.
So it's like giving your brain a little extra oomph, if you will.
Exactly.
And the article even mentioned that a relatively small amount, like 5 grams a day, can make a difference.
That's right. 5 grams seems to be like the magic number for those noticeable cognitive benefits.
At least as a starting point. But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay, hit me with it.
Research is suggesting that as we get older,
Our bodies might not absorb creatine quite as efficiently as they used to.
interesting.
It's kind of similar to how we often need more protein as we age.
So what does that mean for those of us who, well,
Aren't exactly spring chickens anymore.
right.
Do we need to start stocking up on creatine like it's going out of style?
Not necessarily. Well, there's definitely a lot more to learn about those age-related differences and how our bodies handle creatine.
The main takeaway is that some benefit is likely still there at any age. Of course, if you're older.
Or if you have any underlying health conditions, it's always a good idea to have a chat with your doctor. They can help figure out the best approach for you.
That's always solid advice. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves...
Let's address the elephant in the room.
Okay, I'm with you.
Is this stuff even safe? I mean, there are always those whispers, about supplements.
Oh, absolutely. Supplements always seem to come with a bit of baggage.
And I've definitely heard my fair share of rumors about creatine.
Like what? What have you heard?
Oh, the usual suspects. But are those fears actually legit?
I get it. I understand the concern.
But honestly, from what we know so far, creatine has a remarkably solid safety profile. It's been studied extensively for decades now.
And the consensus is pretty clear. When you take it as directed, it's safe for most healthy individuals. Now, anyone with pre-existing conditions.
They should definitely consult with their doctor. But for the vast majority of people, those fears are unfounded.
Okay, that's reassuring. Some of those rumors had me a little spooked, not gonna lie.
I hear you. It's always better to be informed.
Speaking of things that might keep you up at night, though.
I did find the article's take on creatine and sleep to be, well...
A little intriguing. It mentioned some people actually get less sleep when they take it.
Huh. That's interesting. I haven't heard that before.
But then it also hinted that creatine might actually help counteract the negative effects of poor sleep.
Okay, so which is it? Less sleep or better sleep?
Right. It seems like a mixed message. What's the deal with that?
That's a great observation, and it just goes to show how complex our bodies really are.
The research on creatine and sleep is still kind of up in the air, still evolving.
One theory is that maybe creatine changes the way we cycle through different sleep stages, so even if we get a little less sleep overall.
We're still getting those cognitive benefits. It's definitely an area where more research is needed, but it's a fascinating detail nonetheless.
It really is. It's like that saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Right.
Maybe creatine is onto something there.
Maybe so.
But in all seriousness, it's really important to remember that everybody is different.
And how your body reacts to creatine, especially when it comes to sleep, might be totally different from how someone else reacts.
Exactly. Individual variability is key. But speaking of individual experiences...
Let's talk about what usually comes to mind first when people think creatine.
Oh, here we go.
The muscle building aspect. We
Yeah.
can't forget about that, right?
Absolutely not. Even if you aren't trying to get that bodybuilder physique.
You have to admit the muscle building potential of this stuff is hard to ignore.
It really is. And the article actually cited some pretty impressive numbers.
Turns out, creatine can lead to much faster lean muscle growth.
Like, how much faster are we talking?
Something like 33% faster, according to one meta-analysis.
33% faster. Wow, that's wild. Even if you're not, trying to be a competitive lifter or anything.
Those kinds of results are pretty motivating, you gotta admit.
Exactly. And it's not all about, aesthetics and looking good.
Faster muscle growth, it means you make faster progress toward really any fitness goal you can think
Well,
of.
right, yeah.
Maybe you want to kick your metabolism into high gear.
Or boost your overall strength, or just, feel more energetic in your everyday life. Creatine can help with all of that.
So it's kind of like a shortcut.
But not in a, shady, cut corners kind of way.
Right. Not a magic bullet or anything.
Yeah. It's more like creatine's helping your body, unlock its full potential, but way more efficiently.
You nailed it. And again, it all comes back to that fundamental role creatine plays in producing ATP. When your muscles have all the energy they need readily available.
They can work harder, recover faster, and ultimately, they adapt more quickly to whatever challenges you throw at them.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a sec, if you will.
We've talked about how creatine can impact the brain, how it affects the body.
But what about its effects on, our overall health? In the long run...
Okay, yeah, that's where things get really fascinating.
The article actually touches on some early research that suggests creatine might actually protect the brain as we get older.
Wait, for real? How?
We're talking about potentially lowering the risk of cognitive decline. Even serious conditions like, dementia and Alzheimer's.
Hold on, are you serious? That's incredible. I mean, those diseases.
They cause so much fear, so much suffering. It's heartbreaking, really.
Really is.
To even think that something as simple as, taking a supplement could help prevent that.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
It is remarkable, isn't it? And to be clear, the research is still in its early stages.
But the potential here, it's huge. And, when you really think about it, it makes sense. Well, creatine is all about optimizing cellular energy, right? And our brain cells, just like any other part of us.
They need energy, especially as we age.
So it's like taking out an insurance policy for your brain.
That's wild. But it's super important to remember here, we're not saying this is some kind of miracle cure.
Right, exactly. Creatine is not a magic bullet, and it's definitely not a replacement for, living a healthy lifestyle.
Right, of course.
A balanced diet, getting enough exercise, challenging your brain, managing that stress.
Those are all crucial for healthy aging.
It's all about the big picture.
It is.
So it's more like creatine's a valuable tool, right? But it's not the be-all and end-all.
You got it. It's about taking a holistic approach to your health. And creatine can be a super powerful ally in that journey.
I love that perspective. So let's say someone's listening to all of this.
And they're thinking, okay, this all sounds pretty amazing, but where do I even start?
What advice would you give someone who's, totally new to creatine?
First things first. Always talk to your doctor. They can look at your medical history, see if there are any potential problems with medications or any conditions you might have.
And of course, guide you on the right dosage.
We say this all the time, but this isn't medical advice, right?
Right.
It's about giving you the info you need so that you can have a good conversation with your doctor.
Exactly. Now, once you get the green light from your doctor,
the next step is choosing the right type of creatine.
Are there different types?
There are. But the article we're looking at today, it really focused on creatine monohydrate.
Okay.
It's the most researched type, and it's the easiest to find.
And if I remember correctly, it's also the most affordable option.
You are 100% correct. Creatine monohydrate is very budget-friendly.
That's always a plus.
Especially compared to some of those other, more complex supplements out there.
I hear that. So No need to break the bank for this one.
Not at all.
Ah.
Plus, it's generally tasteless, so you can easily mix it with water, juice, whatever you like, and it won't mess with the flavor.
Yo, chalky aftertaste, sign me up.
Ease of use is key. But let's zoom out for a second.
When I think about this whole creatine thing, what blows my mind is that it's this perfect example of where, science and self-improvement collide.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, think about it.
We're always looking for ways to, level up our performance, both mentally and physically, right? And then you have this naturally occurring thing that has the potential to actually do that.
It's like we're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and creatine is right there with us, keeping pace.
Exactly. And it's really interesting to think about how the research on creatine has, changed over time.
In what way?
Well, at first, people only thought about it in terms of athletics,
Yeah.
But now we're finding out that it could have benefits that reach way beyond just working out.
That's so cool. It's like uncovering new layers all the time.
It really is a testament to the power of scientific research and how interconnected our biology really is.
Absolutely. But,
Yeah.
with all this talk about the science and the research and all that,
It's important to remember our listeners, their lives, their goals, all of that.
oh, absolutely. It always comes back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because we can talk about the science in, a general way.
But the real magic, it happens when you can connect it to your own life,
I totally agree. It's about making it personal.
Yes. What are you trying to achieve? What challenges are you facing?
What does your ideal life even look like? Maybe you're a student struggling to focus or an entrepreneur burning the midnight oil.
Maybe you're a parent, juggling a million different things at once.
Right. Or maybe you just want to, age gracefully,
Yeah.
Stay mentally and physically sharp for as long as possible.
And that's the beauty of all of this, isn't it?
There are so many potential applications here, as diverse as our listeners themselves.
It's empowering. It's not about telling people what to do.
It's about making them curious, encouraging them to, really take control of their own well-being.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, we do have one final part to this deep dive.
We still have to explore some specific examples, some actionable takeaways.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to miss that. It's pretty wild when you think about it, right?
What's that?
How one little supplement can, open up a whole world of possibilities.
Oh, for sure. It really shows you how connected everything is, our bodies and minds.
We tend to think of them as separate, but then you have something like energy production.
Which happens at, the most basic cellular level. It's bound to have a ripple effect on everything we do.
Totally. And that's why I think this whole deep dive has been perfect for our listeners, especially those who are all about learning new things.
It's not just about memorizing facts about creatine. It's about understanding the bigger picture.
Absolutely. That connection between science and, actually improving yourself.
Exactly. So let's wrap things up with some, concrete takeaways.
Let's say someone's been listening. They're intrigued, but they're still on the fence about whether creatine is the right move for them.
What advice would you give them?
I'd tell them to start by thinking about their goals. What are they hoping to get out of this?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Is it better athletic performance, sharper thinking, or maybe they're just trying to stay healthy long term?
Right, because as we've been saying, creatine has the potential to impact all of those things.
Exactly. So knowing what your priorities are, that's key.
Right.
The next thing I'd suggest is
take a look at your lifestyle right now. Are you already eating healthy, exercising regularly, those basic things?
laying the groundwork.
Yeah, exactly. Because creatine isn't a magic solution. It's more like an amplifier.
It works best when you're already doing those fundamental things to take care of yourself.
I like that, an amplifier.
Mhm.
Okay, so what about the folks who are already taking creatine?
They've been incorporating it into their routines, all that.
The creatine converts out there.
Yeah, exactly. What can they take away from all of this?
Well, I'd encourage them to maybe rethink their dosage and when they take it.
Okay, because of that whole age thing we were talking about.
Exactly. What worked for you a few years ago might need a little adjusting now.
It's a good reminder that what we know about health and nutrition,
It's always changing.
that's so true. It never stops evolving,
Mm,
which is what makes it so fascinating, really.
for sure. But before we call it a day, there's one last thought I want to leave our listeners with.
Go for it.
We've been, super enthusiastic about creatine's potential.
As we should be.
Right. But we also have to remember that there's still a lot we don't know. The research is ongoing.
That is such an important point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement, but
It's important to be a little skeptical, really think critically about the information that's out there.
absolutely. And just as important, remembering that everyone's body is different.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Individual variation is everything.
What works for one person might not work for another, and that's okay.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, I think we've officially covered it all when it comes to creatine today,
We talked about the science, busted some myths.
and hopefully got people thinking about how this supplement, which seems so simple,
Could actually have a huge impact on their lives.
I'd say is a pretty successful exploration,
Totally agree. And I hope our listeners feel like they can go out there.
and do their own deep dives into the world of health and wellness.
Here. Because knowledge is power, right?
Right. And the more we learn...
The better decisions we can make for ourselves.
Exactly. And who knows what other incredible discoveries are waiting for us out there.
That's the exciting part. Until next time, everyone.
Keep those brains working, keep those questions coming, and keep diving deep.